For first-timers, I've been serializing my book Don't Jump for the last 4.5 years, and I'm still not even close to done. It's so scary. But anyway, last month I read of Andy's close encounter of a presidential kind. And her husband Lenny's career continued crumbling at the hands of his nemesis, Marty, with his idolized boss, Rob Holleran. And in the process, their idyllic marriage began a dark descent under the pressure. Andy's pet name for Lenny is Homer, and she, in turn, is his Marge. Now, yesterday, when I should have been looking over the pages I was going to read for you, I was instead reading my Facebook messages. You know, it's your birthday. You get like a gazillion of them. But, you know, for all the messages I got, and thank you all who left them, and I really got a gazillion of them. What happens when you get those? All I noticed was the one I didn't get. That's all I'm thinking about for 24 hours. The son of a bitch who didn't leave me the message. That's all. All right.
Maybe they were underwater.
Maybe. I hope. No. Oh, by the way, I want to share a little something with you before I go on. Amy was talking about psychic phenomena and stuff. Well, I'm like into this. I have a program. And the Course in Miracles, I'm really into. But anyway, the thing that I've been doing for the last week is I am entitled to miracles. I have been saying this as a mantra. Somebody suggested, it came in my daily thing. Now, you know, I do a lot of those things. It's I let go and let God. You know, I do like all these things. I try them as my mantra for a while. Sometimes they work for a little while. Sometimes they don't. Well, this one, I can't sleep. When I wake up, I'm done. 4 in the morning, 5 in the morning, I'm done. So I decided to try saying, I am entitled to miracles, over and over. 3 days in a row, I have gone back to sleep. Ooh, this is a miracle. Now you might, what is a miracle? That's such a big, that is a miracle. It is a miracle in my life. So I use it for everything. So I've been, New York is entitled to miracles. Everyone on the East Coast is entitled to miracles. I've been naming everybody in my life is entitled to miracles. I am entitled to try it. It's amazingly powerful. Okay, here we go. The upside of down. It's easy for me to blame Holleran and Marty for the damage to our marriage, but in truth, Mary Jane was the bitch that ripped us apart. Soon after the Clinton party, my dad was coming to stay with us for Thanksgiving, as he had every year since he and Roxlyn split. I was stressed. A few years earlier, on one of his holiday visits, when we were still living in Lenny's bachelor apartment, very late one night, long after my dad had gone to bed, we broke out the weed. Before lighting up, we put a towel under the bedroom door, sprayed the hallway with Lysol, and while standing on the radiator, we hung ourselves out of the open window as we toked on the smokeless pipe. Smokeless pipe? Feeling right at last, relaxing to some mindless movie on the tube, we were just about to fade off when we heard the bathroom door slam shut. We only had one bathroom, and you had to pass by our bedroom to get to it. Surely everything was okay. We'd taken every precaution. No way my dad smelled anything. Shaken nonetheless, I had a fitful night's sleep. In the morning, while making coffee, Lenny still asleep, my dad was sitting at the kitchen table waiting for breakfast. I went to the bathroom in the middle of the night, he began. There was a very strong odor. I did what any good addict would do. Lied. Dad, this is Lenny's house. He's a grown man. If he chooses to indulge himself, he owes no explanation to anyone other than perhaps me. I might have convinced my dad, but I didn't fool myself for a second. I felt like the lying dirtbag that I was for blaming Lenny. Addict. Ugly word. Uglier life. Pot had freed me from myself. When high, I forgot I was less than, scared and unsure of myself. Marijuana was my great enabler. Under the influence, I could be whatever I wanted to be, daring, outgoing, and willing. And once I discovered that, I wasn't about to let it go. It took me many years to realize that the pot that initially facilitated my power eventually took it back, leaving me almost paralyzed. I quit smoking grass numerous times over the previous 10 years, when I was pregnant or trying to be, and when I was nursing the kids, but I kept falling back into the old routine. My smoking didn't have a big dramatic end externally, but I was dying inside. My self-loathing hitting bottom. I never believed marijuana was addictive before when I tried to kick it, and I tried a lot. Life had been pretty idyllic for a long time. I loved to smoke, and I laughed a lot during those years. For Lenny, it was his 5 o'clock cocktail, only he had it at 8. For me, it was all or nothing. As soon as the kids were in school, I worked out, and then my day of consumption began. A few hits there, a couple of tokes here, jonesing in between. As controlled and anal as I was about everything, and I do mean everything, pot was the one exception. It controlled me, and I hated myself for it. It was one thing when it was just the two of us, but I felt like such a phony once we were parents. I couldn't look people in the eye. I was constantly brushing my teeth, washing my face, opening windows. It was exhausting. In truth, I didn't even like being high anymore. It just made me more paranoid and complacent. What I loved was smoking, the smoke filling my lungs. Inhale, exhale, relax. It was the ritual, the momentary letting go. The high had long since stopped working. It was time to be a grown-up, not just pretend to be one. And even though I was pretty good at pretending, keeping it together was just becoming too much work. My self-hatred only left me for the moment after the hit. Within seconds, it returned more virulent than ever. I had so many dreams yet to fulfill, so many unfinished products. Products? Projects. See, I should have been doing this instead of Facebook yesterday. The more I procrastinated, the bigger the tasks became. And the larger they loomed, the more impossible it became to even think about starting them. It wasn't that they were any big deal or anything. It just meant I had to get off the damn couch. I considered myself an honest person, but I hid my addiction from everyone, including myself. Being racked with guilt and shame didn't stop me from pinching pot from my closest friend if the opportunity arose. Not always, but sometimes. If I received extra change from the cashier, if they neglected to see an item in my cart, I gleefully made hay with it, suffering later from my lack of moral character. I worked hard to convince the world and myself that I was a good person, but in truth, I was a liar, cheater, stealer. I was the mom with sunglasses on, even on rainy evenings. We had to leave the playground early, every hour or two, just so I could refresh my buzz. Our bedroom was my den of iniquity. The door always closed, the windows open. I was pathetic and knew it. In sharp contrast, I was extremely attentive, overly so. I didn't let Jack out of my sight for the first 14 months of his life, to both of our detriment. I was continually trying to control everything, my fear on parade. I single-handedly saved the day, every day. Addict thinking at its best. By all appearances, I had it so together. Growing up with a working mom, we were always running out of toilet paper, substituting paper towels, napkins, whatever was around. The cupboards and refrigerator were almost always bare, just the necessities of the day on hand. To compensate or overcompensate, no one in my home ever wanted for anything. There were backups for my backups. Lenny and I owned our apartment, had money in the bank. We had 2 terrific kids. He had a dream job and was well-liked and respected. I volunteered almost full-time fundraising for the kids' public school. Our apartment was immaculate, thanks to an undiagnosed case of OCD. Mental illness can serve a purpose. The kids had a loving and structured life. I was organized to a fault with play dates, homework, bills, paperwork, errands, and almost any responsibility, except living in reality. Beneath the facade of functionality, I felt shamefully guilty. Mommies aren't supposed to be stoned, period. With another Thanksgiving approaching and my dad about to visit, I finally decided to just say no. No more Lysol, Visine, hiding in the bathroom, or making excuses to go to the store 30 times a day. Over 40 and a grown-up, it was time to try to act like one. So the night before my dad arrived, I smoked my last joint. I did it without help or fanfare, also without joy or passion. It was a very undramatic bottom, not nearly as low as many, just the end of the line for this marijuana addict of 30 years. Driven by self-righteous indignation, I never wavered. Lenny wasn't exactly seeing things my way. Unlike me, he could control his smoking, waiting until after work to indulge. He had a good job, was making lots of money. Pot was the only thing keeping him sane, what with Hollerin' and Marty perpetually squeezing his nuts. Now straight, I was his most annoying adversary of all. My nagging incessant. The self-righteous crap that came out of me was astounding. I tried to badger, cajole, shame, plead, reason, any tactic I could think of, and I thought of lots. Lenny began trying. He'd quit for a few days, sometimes a couple of weeks, but he couldn't make it stick. At my subtle as a sledgehammer prodding, he finally began seeking help. He attended Alcoholics Anonymous meetings, and when those didn't cut it, he switched to Narcotics Anonymous. Both groups tended to not take marijuana addiction very seriously. They'd suggest he'd come back when he had a real problem. Some of them even used the marijuana maintenance program to keep them off booze and hard drugs. For the most part, they discouraged sharing on the subject, so Lenny kept his problem to himself. Naturally, he'd relapse. We'd fight, he'd quit, go to a few meetings, relapse, and we'd fight some more. After a few months of that, we rediscovered Faye, my therapist. Even though she pissed me off, branding me an addict, she was right. She was always right, that bitch. Faye's first order of business was to guide Lenny to Marijuana Anonymous. A newer, smaller fellowship, the meetings were held once a day and filled with kindred spirits of all ages and lifestyles. People you'd never suspect of having addiction issues, doctors, teachers, financial brokers, and the occasional outlaw. I white-knuckled my abstinence alone, too holier than thou to need help. As a result, I was miserable. My unhappiness was taken out on my poor Homer. Getting high since I was 13, I had no idea how to love without the buzz. I had no idea how to do anything without it. I begrudged Lenny his relief from his occasional joint or meeting and tortured him for it. Our happy marriage began crumbling with my resented sobriety. Not exactly sobriety. I continued to have an occasional cocktail, as that was not my problem. I was not an alcoholic like the rest of those losers. I had no reason to give that up, too. I never even considered it. But Lenny, he had a problem. Driving us both insane, I drove him like a cowboy hanging on to a bucking bronco. Watching his every move, I waited for him to fuck up. He didn't disappoint. He'd go to an MA meeting every Friday night and stay straight until the next Thursday, his Friday. Hollerin' only worked a 4-day work week. As his head monologue writer, so did Lenny. Every Thursday, after an excruciating long two-show day-night, Lenny would wait until I was asleep and get high. Like clockwork, every Friday, our date day, he'd confess his digression during our weekly couples therapy session. With Faye there to buffer. After which, we'd suffer through an angry, silent lunch, see a movie, and then I'd escort him to his Marijuana Anonymous meeting and wait outside. For years, the thought of any A group, AANAMA, scared the shit out of me. I pictured a bunch of drunk junkies with sallow skin in some dark, dank basement, smoking nasty cigarette butts, drinking bitter coffee from wilting diner takeout cups, looking miserable, white-knuckling sobriety, and hating every fucking minute of it. Each Friday evening, I'd sit in the hall reading some mindless magazine, listening to the laughter that would inevitably erupt in the room. I tried to steal a glance before or after to get a sense of what was going on in there, but the meetings scared me. And besides, I didn't need help. I was cured. Week after week, Lenny would emerge a slightly changed man. After a couple of months, he started putting some clean time together, and I began to have hope. One Friday night, for no apparent reason, I asked if I could go in. The meeting leader approached us as soon as we got to the door. "Hi, I'm Eric, welcome." "Hi, Eric, I'm Andy, Lenny's wife." "How long you been clean?" 9 months. "Great. Would you like to qualify?" "Qualify? Tell your story, your using story." "My using story?" "Yeah. What made you start getting high, what it was like the years you did, and why you quit, and what it's like now." Yeah, sure." I was terrified, but kind of jazzed. After a few 12-step readings, Eric took the floor. "Hi, I'm Eric, and I'm a marijuana addict. And now, to share her experience, strength, and hope, please help me welcome Andy." Strength and hope? Hey, wait a minute. Nobody told me about that power. All right. Hi. My name is Andy, and I'm a marijuana addict. Hi, Andy. It was the first time I'd ever said those words out loud. I let out a nervous chuckle. I was quickly put at ease by the group's energy and focus. Beginning with my first hit of Keith, I detailed my drug history and then told them about my dad's visit and my decision to quit. As for my strength and hope, well, in truth, I don't have any. That's why I'm here. Thanks. I lowered my head in embarrassment and waited for the jeers. Instead, the room erupted in applause. The easiest ovation I'd ever gotten. The first person to speak was a woman a little older than me with short white hair, tan skin, and athletic build and clear blue eyes. Hi, I'm Ellen, and I'm a marijuana addict. Hi, Ellen. Andy, welcome. Thank you so much for your honest and succinct share. Some titters around the room. I related to so much of what you said. As the meeting continued, they each thanked me for my brief, albeit relatable share. Ah, sweet validation. I liked it. One by one, they told my story with self-effacing, brutal honesty. And for the first time in 9 months since I'd smoked my last toke, I remembered how to breathe and how to laugh. An hour and 15 minutes later, as the meeting concluded, they each came up and hugged me tightly. Totally weird, but kind of nice. Keep coming back. I had a feeling I would. Once on the street, I asked Lenny what they meant about my brief share and why they chuckled. A qualification is usually about 20 minutes. How long was mine? 7. Oh, shit. I was shocked. A blowhard like me running short had never been my problem. Unlike in other 12-step programs, where many of us have lost everything, in Marijuana Anonymous, the stakes are not quite so high. Although perhaps morally and spiritually bankrupt, potheads can usually maintain a facade of functionality. Usually, but not always. It's an insidious drug, as so many of us convince ourselves that it's just a harmless natural herb. The damage it does is very difficult to discern. I wasn't really in danger of walking that road again, but I needed to figure out what drove me there to begin with. An unhappy mess that needed fixing. I quit because I was a mom, and I was supposed to, not because I wanted to. I still loved Mary Jane, but I felt shamefully guilty. With the help of Faye and the Friday night Marijuana Anonymous meeting, we began our journey to try to find our happiness without weed. Only there was none. There were relapses, broken promises, screaming, anger, disappointment, sadness, heartbreak, and loneliness. The big L. It was something I hadn't felt since I'd been with Lenny. I'd lived in loneliness as a child and through my first horrific marriage. When it reared its old, familiar, ugly head with Lenny, I was terrified. We'd been happy for so long. Lenny gave me something that no one else ever had, unconditional love. It was something I'd always dreamt about, and here was this wonderful, talented, funny man showering me with it. For the majority of our years together, I woke up in the morning with a smile, thanking God for my incredible good fortune. With Lenny, I felt connected, and that feeling was always with me. When it was gone, was it gone forever? Could we get it back? Was pot the glue of our union? Had we just run our course? Would we even like each other once we saw our true, unenhanced selves? They warned that many couples that straightened up split up. Perhaps it had nothing to do with any of that. Maybe it was simply Holleran and Marty working their magic, tearing us down piece by piece.
Imagine me